And Gina, you guys can all hear through the camera just fine? Okay, thanks. It's 6:05, so I think I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First thing, I'd actually just like to welcome Ron Flynn to the board, who's been on the board, but this is the first time we have to sit at the table with us, so welcome. I'd like to take a motion to approve. I know I'm going fast. We have a long meeting tonight, so if I zip through, please forgive me.
I got it.
A motion to approve the agenda, please.
I move to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second that.
Any comments, any questions, any suggestions for changing the agenda? And I'm going to point out, kind of like I just said, this is a long meeting. We're looking at 3 hours right now. We have a long executive session. So I'm going to be as careful as I can with sticking to especially public comment and even our discussion for the time allotted on the agenda. So if you're concerned about that at all, make sure we need adjusted to do that. No, I think we have nothing. Okay, great. All in favor of approving the agenda? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Anyone abstaining? Great. Unanimous, thank you. Let's just take a minute to review the board norms. That will be in your agenda. Okay. What? John Wilson?
He's coming.
Okay.
He'll be here. He's late. He'll be late. He had a coach mountain bike.
Right, and Madison King also said she'll be just a few minutes late. All right, so the next item is to approve the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
And a second? Lindsay? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That looks unanimous. Any nays? Abstentions? Before we move into the governance process, which is probably the majority of our meeting today, we wanted to make room for public comment. We have 20 minutes set aside. If there's anyone in the public that would like to make a comment, we'll need to, thank you, Randy, use the microphone. Please state your name. And again, as we've been doing in the past, if you have something to say that's already been said, feel free to give a shout out and not repeat what the person said, but say, I agree with, my neighbor over here, just so that we can make sure that everybody that wants to speak can get a chance to speak. Marty. Please introduce yourself, your town, and...
My name is Martin Amber. I'm from Sunderland. The comments that I have regarding the reorganization, will I have an opportunity to speak during that discussion, or should I speak now?
I think you should speak now.
Okay. So, I would just like to share some thoughts and some comments that I have. I speak from experience, having been a school and district administrator for over 30 years. I have opened schools, I've closed schools, I've reorganized schools. And I think and I believe that it is in the district's best interest if you go through your reorganization all at once and close the schools that need to be closed at this point, reorganize with the elementary students, with the exception of Floodbrook, to go to Manus, and all the middle school students to go to Dorset. And I say that for a variety of reasons. First, that if you do a partial reorganization, those schools that remain open become harder in their feeling that they have been open, they should remain open, and if the reorganization is successful without us, then why do we need to actually close since it's already worked? The second is that once you reorganize and you put the appropriate number of students together in the appropriate setting, you have a greater opportunity to develop curriculum that makes sense, that deals with all of the students and the entire program, rather than dealing with some students and then reorganize when more students move in, and reorganize your professional staff and reorganize your curriculum, and your opportunities. Plus, it's better for the students to have an opportunity to mix and grow with as many kids as possible, to give them the greatest opportunity of choice, choice among their friends, choice of opportunities, and also to put students in the most appropriate setting for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. We still have a little bit of time. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Go ahead.
It's on the bottom, Brittany.
I'm Brittany Dombrowski. I live in Manchester, teach at Dorset. I just had a question. Speaking about the reorganization, just something I've been hearing in the schools and wondering the answer to. I've heard people say that there's not going to be a loss of jobs for teachers, which obviously as a teacher I appreciate. People are asking about support staff in terms of custodians, office staff, lunch people, stuff like that, and wondering will anyone be losing their jobs in those areas. So I just wanted to ask that for what people are discussing, because obviously that affects a lot of people.
Thank you, Brittany. Because we're taking this as public comment, I'm writing your question down, and hopefully we'll talk about that when we get to the discussion portion. If your hand raised, step right up.
Seth Beauregard, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to address this, that while I will accept there are some schools in this area that are smaller, that may be struggling, what has always been done with them has always been a decision of the towns. And I can't personally see this, and I have talked to an awful lot of people who can't personally see this as anything other than a flagrant money, power, and resource grab for Manchester. I had the opportunity to go to school in a small town, in a small school. This is depriving my child of that opportunity.
Thank you. Yep.
Hi, my name is Eric Salat from Manchester. Just curious what this non-binding article that was in the packet today. So each town has to vote on whether to close their schools?
Eric, we'll get to that when we speak to it, but essentially, yes, that is part of our bylaws, that each time we'll have a non-binding referendum and opportunity.
Another question, there's a description of the library policy in the notes today. Is there any other way that a parent gets to learn about the library policies other than looking at these notes?
Our policies are stated online.
Online? That's the only way
In the
a parent
website,
can know.
and I'm not certain, honestly, if they're in, we don't have a student handbook that we give to parents with the policies in them necessarily, but we do notify the public of the policies as much as possible, and being that they're in these agendas now, they're publicly stated in that way.
Only by way of looking at
Well,
Agendas online,
it was also passed by the legislature.
right,
So the parent
thank
doesn't
you.
otherwise know what the library policies are?
Randy just added, it is a state policy, so it would also be listed there, but not necessarily, we don't typically print all the policies for all the parents to see,
One other question. There seems to be an inclusive policy, but does it exclude sexually explicit material for young children?
That's a great question. I can only speak to what is in the policy, and what is in the policy is how the policy is written, how the superintendent of schools interpret that, decide that.
How do you implement a library policy?
Through the superintendent, through the administration in the school. We don't implement the policies, we approve the policies at the board level.
The books are also selected by the librarians.
It's a state policy.
It is a state policy.
It's legislation.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Hi, Tammy Heaton. My children attended Courier Memorial School. So I'm not really sure if Courier is definitely closing. That's the rumor around town. Is that Courier is definitely closing at the end of this year. So if that's the case, my question kind of relates to his as far as there's a vote that's supposedly been presented to the town that we need to consider. And so what does the vote do? And does the town have any say in whether Courier closes or not? Because I think it's going to be terrible if they close Courier.
Thank you, Tammy. Tammy, we will go into that in more detail when we get to that, which I think is one of the very next items. Anyone else? Yeah.
My name is Sean Dempsey. I live here in Danby. I just want to express like a slight amount of frustration at that. I know saw proposals for like 3 different options of where schools should go, and all this is happening before like any sort of, and I know it's a non-binding agreement, which basically means it can be ignored, but where's like the input from people in advance about what's going on with the schools in the area. The only reason I really even knew this meeting was occurring was because I work at a school and I hear other people talking about it, but a lot of the people that I know in town didn't even know this was happening. So there's a bit of frustration there, just in like what is the process, and it has like a decision already been made, because I know there's 3 options about possibly going to MEMS, possibly going to Dorset, but all that's being done before even like a non-binding town vote was had, which just seems like a strange process to me.
Sean, I don't want to get into it too much right now, but if you are here at the end of the meeting, we'd be happy to walk through. We have had a number of community forums in each of the towns, as well as coffee clatches just recently, and have been going through this process for over a year now, including meeting here and in Sunderland to discuss kind of the state of the schools.
I understand it, it wasn't like, maybe
Right.
I just completely missed it, for the past year or so.
Right. Yeah.
Either way, like I said, the process is happening before that non-binding town vote even happened. However many people there at the meeting, you guys almost outnumber everyone in this room, but that's not a consensus, that's not being informed.
We've had much more well-attended meetings this year, I can assure you. But anyone else? I still have a little bit of time left for public comment. Yeah, Colin.
My name is Colin Igo. I live in Dorset, and thank you all for all the work that you've done. And I've attended many of those meetings, read everything, and I'm always weighing what to say and when. And I think this is a good time, given that you guys are having important conversations. Something that I really implore you to consider is the ramifications to our local kids, given so much uncertainty at the state level. And I know the work that you've done, that you began, was well before anything that happened in the state, and I appreciate that and the foresight there, but we also have to respond to the conditions at the moment. And if we, for a moment, think about a first grader, a second grader, a young child who, if we make local changes, leaves their school and goes to another school, and then a year from now we have state changes, and they leave that school and they go to another school, and then perhaps a year from now we have a new middle school or whatever it may be, and leaves that school and goes to another school. And perhaps in 5 years that final outcome is a good one, but in the interim, the children's educational experience has been compromised. Continuities are really important, and not just for those kids, but for those teachers, for the culture of schools, for all these things that we know bring about good educational experiences and outcomes. And so, while I really do appreciate the work has been done before the state, we also can't pretend the conversation at the state level isn't happening. And I think patience is really important, because we don't get a do-over at our kids' education. We get one shot at this. A year from now, we will know more at the state level. And we'll be able to make a more informed decision. And so I appreciate the patience that has brought us to this point. I would just really beg and implore for as a parent, that we have a little more patience to see what things happen at the state level, have more information to then make the right decision for our community. And I think short of assurances that any changes we make here locally can really outlast and endure state changes, I really worry that despite good intentions, the impact is going to be negative on our kids. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I really agree with everything you just said. But I wanted to make a comment on your comment you just made, Mel, about how there have been other meetings that have been better attended. And I know that personally I came down from Londonderry, and I'm here because I'm really interested to hear what the plan is with the 8th graders at Floodbrook. And I had to move mountains to get here tonight. And so I really want the board to consider that this is representative of the barrier, that the distance between children who live on the mountain and their families being able to actively engage with middle school in Dorset is going to create. I think you should look at the number of mountain town families that are here and compare that to who should not be in Floodbrook, at Floodbrook, and just really consider that in your decision. Parent involvement is really, really important. I've been a very involved parent for all 3 of my children, and this is going to create a massive barrier.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else like to make a comment before we move on to the agenda? No? Okay. Emma, would you mind running up and grabbing that mic actually for me? I wasn't sure close. There's an off switch down at the bottom. Okay, let's go to item A. Go ahead, Nick, thank you.
I move to approve the October 28th, 2025 for a non-binding referendum vote in Sunderland, Danby, and Mount Tabor regarding school closure.
Can I get a second for that motion? Thank you, David. Dick, do you want to go ahead and explain that process for us since you made the motion and for the public?
The process for the public is based on the organizational document that organized the current supervisory union and the Taconic in Green in particular. We are required to hold a non-binding referendum. At this particular point, while it may seem like a formal vote to close the school has happened, it has not. The actual vote comes after the referendum and will be part of the board's consideration. In addition to that, we've heard an awful lot of comments about what we should do and the timing of what we should do by large numbers of people, both at meetings, in coffee clutches, and also on the Google Doc that we have, so that the board has been aware of an awful lot of the statements that were made tonight. I think it's particularly important that the organizational idea in the North Shire Agreement that was created was there so that townspeople in particular would have an opportunity to express themselves one more time. It's non-binding because there are many reasons behind and for the school closure, having to do with finances, teachers, all sorts of different things that a board might choose to go against a community vote to not close the school. So we have to have a non-binding vote so that the voters of each town, Sunderland being the town that's going to vote on the closure of Sunderland, and Mount Tabor and Danby vote on the closure of schools. So I think it's important to recognize that we're not done yet. The people in the town, and we've heard positive comments in all of the towns, and we've heard a fair number of negative comments. All of those things shape the way the board votes. And oh, by the way, if 75% vote in favor of closing the school, then the school will be closed. That means if 4 board members are persuaded by the public, by whatever is happening, not to close the schools, then we don't get 75%. So we're still listening, we're still thinking, but we have to plot a way forward in order to make plans.
Okay. I think the main item for this action item A is to make sure that October 28th feels like the right day. If we can pass that, then we'll get onto the warning and make sure the warning is well written. But does anybody have any issues with October 28th as a Tuesday?
Town clerks are all okay with that date.
Okay.
So we've spoken to all of them, they understand, we're working with them.
Okay. All in favor of approving October 28th for the date of the non-binding referendum vote in Sunderland, Danby, and Mount Tabor regarding school closure? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Action item B, approve the warning for non-binding referendum vote. If anybody would like to make a motion for that, and go ahead and read the language so that we have it for the public.
Where is it? Don't have the language. Didn't expect to do it.
I'm sorry.
It's
Packet page 9.
9, got it.
Okay.
Packet page 9. So I'll read it as it exists and obviously try and do it exactly. Taconic and Green Regional School District, warning. The legal voters of the towns of Sunderland are hereby notified that a special meeting is hereby warned for the purposes of voting on the following non-binding articles required by Article 4 of the Taconic and Green Articles of Agreement. The vote will be held on Tuesday, October 28th. Non-binding article. The School Board of Directors of the Taconic and Green Regional School District are contemplating closure of Sunderland Elementary School located in Sunderland, Vermont, pursuant to Article 14 of the Articles of Agreement of the Board of Directors, presents the following non-binding advisory question to the eligible voters. Article 1. Shall Sunderland Elementary School be closed effective July 1st, 2026? For the purposes of voting by Australian ballot on Tuesday, October 28th, voters of the town of Sunderland will vote at the Sunderland Municipal Office at 104 Mountain View Road. The polls will be open on Tuesday, October 28th, 2025 at 7 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. The legal voters are further notified that voter qualification and registration relative to the said meeting shall be as provided in chapters 43, 51, and 55 of Title 17, Vermont Statutes Annotated.
Then flip the page and read the next one.
I think rather than read the next one, we could just,
The other one says that voters of Tabor and
Mount Tabor and Danby.
Mount Tabor and Danby, and reads exactly the same.
Except that the voting will be
At,
the Danby Town Clerk's office, 130 Brook Road. Same. And Mount Tabor will vote at the Mount Tabor Town offices at 522 Brooklyn Road. And they're both will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The same dates, October 28th. I need a second for that motion. Lindsay. Any discussion? Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, on the Sunderland one, it looks like there's a minor typo where it says towns of Sunderland, right at the top there. Legal voters of the towns of Sunderland, maybe just by unanimous consent, approve the change from plural to singular.
so moved. You second it, right?
Lindsay, you agree with the second?
Yes.
Yes. Remove S in italics. Anything else? Okay. All in favor of approving the warning? Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Dick, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah. Since the other one also approved both the warning and the relevant dates, and we've just discussed that, I think the last vote, because the action above was to create such a referendum, and in that case, it is for the towns of.
It said but Sunderland was listed as a singular in the
Right,
DNB
but
Mount Tabor support.
we changed the one word
To towns.
Just for Sunderland,
for Sunderland,
Right.
not for the others.
Correct.
Yeah.
that would be plural.
Okay, action item C, approve school reconfiguration transition proposal for the fall of 2026. Does anybody want to make a motion to open up the discussion for this? Dick.
In order to have a discussion, we have to have an article. And it was page 15, I think. And so I move at, wait, it's not 15. 12?
Which one are you?
I would move option 3 with no particular prejudice of option 3, but it engenders the discussion on all of them. So I would move option 3, and you wanted me to read precisely option 3.
Right here.
Yeah, okay. Option 3 states, school assignments, Manchester Building grades PK through 5 for Danby, Dorset, Manchester, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland. The Dorset Building to include grades 6 through 8 for Danby, Dorset, Manchester, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland. The Floodbrook School Building, grades K to 8 for Landgrove, Londonderry, Peru, and Weston.
Somebody want to second that motion? Lindsay. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open it up for discussion, but Randy, do you want to speak first to the board on this at all? I know that you've spoken a lot over the past couple weeks, but I figured I'd give it over to you if you have something up front.
Sure, I mean, it's,
Do you need a mic?
oh, I, yeah, there's been a lot of conversation. This continues to be a really difficult process, and I appreciate everyone being here. I guess, Mel, would you like me to sort of respond to some of the process, or just start talking about configuration?
Yeah, it's probably helpful to
I
talk
think,
about the process.
just, we do have some new folks in the audience, and I think to remind the board, as was identified, this conversation around a regional middle school has been discussed for over 3 years at this point. And as we have continued to do work and collect information, we've looked at our programming across the board and realized we really do not have enough students for the 5 schools that we operate. I was just looking actually at enrollment numbers this morning. You know, they continue to decline at a really high rate. And that's concerning because, as I said to the board last summer, we're really seeing the impact on our ability to provide programming for our students. And as a superintendent, with the numbers we have in some of our schools and the challenges we have with programming because of that declining enrollment, I don't feel like we're doing what's best for our students. So, you know, that's ultimately what has led us here. And yes, the state started its work in January, you know, this last legislative session, and that work's happening, and that still doesn't change the fact that we continue to have fewer and fewer students, and that we have a responsibility to providing the most robust, solid, effective programming we can for all of our kids. So there's probably nobody who has thought more about this idea of pausing than I have, and I just frankly cannot, with any good conscience, say to the board that's the right thing for our kids right now. I can't. When I've got a teacher teaching 3 grade levels, that's in multiple content areas, that's a big lift. And anyway, so, you know, Dick just you know, presented the idea to the board of approving option 3. I think that there are many. Do you want me to, can I just finish this, John, or do you want me to? Okay. And, okay, that's okay, I didn't know if you wanted me to stop. And I think that is a very, very good option. I feel confident in our ability to educate our students under configuration 3. We did send out the transition proposals, had a survey open. I know board members have met with people. I've had 3 different times, you know, weekends, evenings, morning, to connect with people in different communities, and you know, reached out to teachers and staff and for input if they felt like providing some, and all of that was intended to give as much information to the board as possible. Yesterday, Friday, I heard from a group of teachers, and I had a meeting last night which I shared with, you know, the information with the board. I think that what the information that you received and that I heard from the teacher that I met with last night, who was representing the conversation, was that they had a meeting with 21 middle school teachers at MEMS, representing classroom teachers, unified arts teachers, special educators, interventionists, reviewing the transition options so that they could think about what they considered best for students. They also spoke with the 2 middle school teachers at Dorset, and they were all fully behind option 2, feeling as if the class space, they gave all that information. I think it's really compelling. One of the questions I asked was, was there a majority that supported this? You know, what percentage of teachers? And I was told it was unanimous, that they all felt like that was what was best for kids in the interim before the middle school, and I think that that's pretty compelling. As you can see in the packet, there's pros and cons for every option that's in there. That would be the case no matter what is proposed. There are pros and cons as we look ahead, and I would say that it says a lot to me when I hear from so many folks who are teaching middle school who say, we really think this is best for middle schoolers. That's what started our process. I spent last night running numbers again. I had heard from somebody over the weekend. I was running numbers again on Sunday, and the idea of option 2 of putting the elementary students from Dorset, Danby, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland together, K to 5 at Dorset, keeping K to 5 at MEMS, which does not put our elementary kids together, but now moves them into two groups of students down in the valley, plus the students up at Floodbrook. And putting the middle school together at MEMS makes a lot of sense. It could fit well. When I know that we've got a lot of teachers behind a plan, that says a lot to me. So I would really encourage the board to consider that input as you're making this decision. I also think that just procedurally, we know the vulnerability right now for the Courier School and for Sunderland as we look ahead as far as being small, not meeting the requirements of the new legislation in many ways. And I think that it's important to recognize that those communities are pretty vulnerable at this point for what we're looking ahead to, regardless of what the state does or doesn't do. But if the board does decide in November that they're not closing those buildings, I would say to you at that point, it is important that we regroup. We are doing the work now so that we give our teachers and administrators sufficient time to be able to plan to have the most successful start next year that we can. So the timing is actually, fairly intentional, so that we give folks as much time as possible to prepare for next year. So
Thank you, Randy. John?
I have two questions. I'll speak loudly, so it's going to be for Randy. First question, a community member raised this with me. I didn't know how to quite answer it. Principals, school leaders, given reconfiguration, what is, if a principal has been in one building, do they get seniority to stay in that building, or is it all principals is the expectation is that similar to teachers under contract, they may be moved to other buildings? Is the expectation that any principal can be moved to fit the right role at any school?
That last comment you made is the answer. So I've been meeting with principals to look at, on a variety of topics related to this, to really get an understanding of what they're interested in, what they're looking for, what their next, how long they plan on continuing to work. And ultimately, I'll be making decisions. Everyone knows that there's a likelihood that they will be moved. And we've had many honest, frank conversations. And with fewer schools, we may not need as many people, but we are going to be building for the smoothest transition possible.
Okay. Oh, wait, I have another question, but we'll get back.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So Randy, thank you for giving that review of some recent input that you received. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the way I interpret what you said is that whereby option 3 may be workable at this point, given what we've learned from staff over the past week or so, that option 2 is preferable. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
all the options that I proposed to the board are all options that I feel like will be better for our kids than what we've got now,
right,
and proposals that I can support.
Yes.
But yes, when you have a group of teachers who are, heard the request from the board for input, took the time to do it, unanimously came together, that's powerful, because when people are really motivated by the future opportunities, it makes a difference.
well, that's meaningful for me, and it's going to, I think, color the way I vote on this. Thank you.
Can I pause real quick? I see, let's see, I just want to make sure that I have Kelsey and Jessica up. Let me just write that down. We're saying option 1, 2, and 3, and I just want to read real quick for the audience what 1, 2, and 3 are, so that there's no, you've heard option 3, which has our middle schoolers minus Floodbrook at the Dorset School, all of them through all towns. Option 1 is PK through 6 for Danby, Dorset, Manchester, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland. Floodbrook would be K5 or K through 6 for Landgrove, Londonderry, Peru, and Weston, and then the Dorset School is grade 7 and 8 for all district towns. Option 2, which is the one that you're referencing that was preferred by the teachers, would have at the Manchester School grades PK through 5 for Manchester students, grades 6 through 8 for Danby, Dorset, Manchester, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland. The Floodbrook School would house grades K through 8 for Londonderry, Landgrove, Peru, and Weston, and the Dorset School would house K5 for Danby, Dorset, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland. All right, that's all. I just want to make sure that was clear. Kelsey.
I guess I have 2 questions now. I had a parent over the weekend ask me about the Anchor program and RISE, and that wasn't clear to me as to where they would be located. And then also, could we answer Brittany's question about support staff?
Sure. So we haven't decided where the programs will be located, and some of that's going to depend on which proposal you choose and space once it all shakes out. They will remain, and we will continue to provide programs as needed for all of our students. So they'll be between those 2 buildings, but how that shakes out at the moment, I don't have an answer for you. As far as support staff goes, I don't anticipate there being reductions in most positions. The one question, and I won't know this answer until we know that things are settling, whether or not there's any administrative assistant staff that need to be reduced. I don't think there will be, but that's the one area that when we look at enrollment and how we reconfigure, I just don't know exactly where everyone is going to be. I think that there's a very strong likelihood we won't, but until I know how we're operating, I can't answer that one definitively. Paras, bus drivers, custodians, for food service, no, I don't expect anything.
Thank you. Thanks. Jessica.
My question was for Brittany, so I'll withdraw.
Was what?
It was the same thing. I wanted to make sure we addressed Brittany's question.
I'll double check. Yeah, Ben.
Just a, I guess, a comment on feedback that we've received. I think that the teacher feedback is really important. There have been a number of community meetings that have happened, but mostly by Randy's Coffee Clutches, but a couple others as well. And speaking as someone who lives up on the mountain, a large portion of the feedback that I have heard has been in support of either option 2 or option 3. Essentially, the importance in the mountain towns of keeping Floodbrook as is through this transition period. There is, while that has been said, there was also simultaneously a lot of support for the middle school, eventuality, but just not moving students in the interim from the mountain. So just wanted to sort of share that with the rest of the board, I did not hear a clear preference for either option 2 or 3 from the mountain, largely because it's not as relevant, that the decision is really 1 or 2 or 3 that matters most to that constituency. So just wanted to share that with the board.
Ben, can I ask you a question about that? Were there folks that were concerned about a program being built and lack of opportunities for the middle schoolers on the mountain? Did that come up, or?
Some, although not nearly to the degree of concern about people leaving the system because of the issues with distance, so that we would lose a larger number of families out of to homeschool or to independent schools or whatever it might be.
And was that the same as for moving to Manchester as it was for moving to Dorset, or was it specific to moving to Dorset?
Well, in both option 2 and 3, Floodbrook Middle School stays, so it doesn't It doesn't matter. The only option for middle school, Floodbrook Middle School, is one, which is to Dorset. I think we would have heard something different if it was Manchester by some of the families perhaps, but one of the big concerns that is out there that was raised a number of different times is concern around redistricting, because the mountain town Floodbrook does have represent from towns that are in 3 different counties, and so the concern that if they're not actively involved in this redistricting this plan, that the state could look at it and say, Green Mountain needs students, let's pull Floodbrook. But I don't know, honestly, that whatever we do will have an influence on that, whatever decision we make at this point. So.
Thank you. Any other comments before John? No, John, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm like my wise father. I appreciate hearing what the staff thought, because I'm feeling torn between 2 and 3. But was there a majority opinion from the principals about 2 or 3? Is there? What do they say?
They'll go either way. They like the idea of all the elementary kids being together and creating that community a lot. And so I think that's the driving force on that. But the idea of being able to essentially have 2 separate, schools within a school at NEMS, where the middle school for 6, 7, and 8 can really be created as designing it in preparation for a new building is also attractive.
Okay.
Emma, wanted to say something first.
Yeah, Emma.
Sorry. Can I just say that I really like option 3 because I feel like it's closer to where we want to go in the long run. And sorry, I moved schools a lot when I was younger because of COVID and then just moving, and it was hard and difficult. And I think if we move these kids in option 2 and then have to move them a couple years later to the end goal, I think it's going to be harder than option 3, which is closer to where we want to get to go in the end. So.
Thank you, Rob. Jessica and Council both have their hand up.
Okay, so I guess I just have a question. Like so we're talking about a transition plan right now. We go into transition plan and then is it contingent then on a bond vote? Like, do we need to be thinking about, are we trying to get as far to where we're going as we can? Like, because we don't know what happens. If that bond vote didn't pass, then what would we do?
If the bond vote does not pass, we are still in the same situation that we are right now with having 5 schools and not enough students. So whether the board decides on option 2 or option 3, we will be moving forward with a second choice without a new middle school. So we will come back likely to looking at what we've got for reserve funds, for looking at renovations that need to happen to buildings, whether we want to increase money within the budget for capital improvements, or whether we want to go out to the voters for a smaller bond for some of that work. Either way, we're still faced with the same educational needs and the building challenges we've got. So if the bond doesn't pass, we continue to come up with what the next right thing is, but the consolidation of the schools still will happen. And if, again, if the board votes not to close Courier and Sunderland, I guess I'll just be, very I'll continue when we're building budgets to be transparent about where we stand and continue to do the best we can. But we're really starting to impact kids, so.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I just want to say off of what Randy said, I think, maybe the board should also be thinking about what if the bond doesn't pass? If we choose option 2, we still have our elementary kids in 2 different schools, which is not what the end goal is. Where option 3, we're at least keeping our elementary kids together and our middle school kids together. So I do think if we have to choose an option, we should choose an option that considers if the bond does not pass. So.
Can I just jump in? If I think that, again, those are some of the future discussions. If the bond doesn't pass, then the board would have an elementary school in Dorset, an elementary school in Manchester, a K-8 building at Floodbrook, and the middle school for the Valley in that Manchester building. So then you would ask yourself that question: is 3 elementary schools, well, technically 3, right? A K-8, an elementary, and then a middle, in which maybe we're going to be now really doing major renovations to MEMS to have, from my perspective, a very kind of a second tier option. You may decide that that's okay, right? If we're not, and so those will be some of the decisions, and they'll, by that point, if that happens, we'll have some options to consider. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're further away, because you're going to be facing a different landscape.
It would be, I think, though, if you put into choosing an option with the bond possibly not passing, it's the least disruptive for the kids. So if the bond doesn't pass and we've chosen option 2, there could be some more disruption, because we then have to look at different scenarios where option 3, as you can tell, I like option 3. Option 3, we're not going to be having to do more transitions now because of plan B with the bond not passing.
And I'm just saying, I guess, that the board may decide that it's okay to keep the students as they are in option 2 and not change anything.
Gotcha. Okay.
David, do you want to speak?
I would like to speak. I'm operating under the assumption, and I should make that clear, that we cannot keep the status quo up. We have to make some changes because we are no longer able to provide the educational opportunities we want our kids to have. So I'm looking at the transitions, and I'm listening very seriously to what Randy put forth as being suggested by a lot of teachers. And the benefit, I'm trying to figure this out. So the benefit is that if we take option 2 as suggested by the Manchester teachers, that means that we start a 6 through 8 middle school at MEMS. So we're starting the middle school system as we want it to be. So it's 6 through 8. It's not 7 through 8. It's not a partial program. It's the full program. So we're starting that up immediately and giving kids that opportunity to address, to experience the educational opportunities we want them to have, even though they're not in the perfect building. So that's a benefit to me. This next one, I'm not sure if it's a drawback or if it's a benefit. That is centralizing the elementary school, which is what our vision is, will not happen for 5 years. So essentially, the elementary school system will remain much the way it is now. So there will be a lot of status quo. There'll be less moving around of kids. Dorset kids will stay where they are, and Danby and Sunderland kids will, I think, will go to Dorset. So there'll be some changes there, but I don't know if I should see that, if you see that as a drawback, or if you see that as a benefit, because we're shaking up the little kids less than we where we're minimizing the amount of shakeup that little kids will experience, and we're maximizing the experience for middle school kids, which is what we want. So I don't know if those are benefits or not, but I feel like this option 2 sounds very strong. So my question to Randy is there any configuration that would allow us to start the middle school right away at 6 through 8 and also start the unified elementary school right away? And I don't think there's any way we can do that.
That's correct. You can put 6, 7, 8, you can do option 3, which puts the students in the valley 6, 7, 8 at the Dorset building.
Oh, you could. I thought it was only 7 and 8 in the Dorset building.
No, that's if option 1, because with the Floodbrook students, we don't have enough for 6th grade there.
Okay. Anyway, that's my comment is I'm looking at it as benefits and drawbacks, and option 2 sounds strong to me.
Who was first? I was looking this way. We'll go down the road. How about Kelsey,
Okay.
and then Jeff, and then Jess?
I want to make sure we thank everybody for giving their input over the past month or so, or 2 weeks that we've been collecting it. I don't have any questions, but I do want to just quickly talk about what's in my head for each of these options. Option 1, obviously we heard a lot of opposition from Floodbrook. I do want to acknowledge, though, that we have heard from some families that they want to opt in on this. And I am concerned that if we don't do option 1, that we will not allow inter-district choice for those Floodbrook families to be able to opt in, because they're going to have to keep their numbers at Floodbrook. And if we do that, I'm nervous about what's going to happen to Floodbrook's middle school if there's no room for them if we choose options 2 or 3. Okay, that's my thought on option 1, is that I feel like we're doing a disservice for the families that are going to want to opt in. Okay, option 2. I'm going to go to option 3 now. Okay, option 3 I liked because it gets all the elementary school students together. It gets all the middle school students together, although I do understand that it's not in the ideal building in Manchester for middle school. But I do like the idea of bringing all of the students together in each level and creating that community. Option 2, though, with last night's email, it made me think that, it's important that we have the teacher feedback. But as I said in my email to you, I'm not in love with Manchester Elementary being separate from everybody else. And I know I said in my email, could we do like 5 through 8 or, K through 4 to make that work. I think it's important that we have the diversity, that the students are able to meet more students. I think Manchester's struggling with that as well with the 2 classes, from what I've heard from parents over there. So that's just my overall, nothing's ideal.
Jeff, go ahead.
So, again, with the information relative to the teachers and what Randy has spoken to tonight, I guess her recommendation, or I don't put word, well, I guess she thinks it's a good idea about the best idea, option 2, is that right? Or not?
Least worst?
Yeah, but in any event, I interpret it that way. It's certainly compelling, anyway, that to have that input from the teachers. So, on the other hand, though, I don't want to really be voting against option 3, which is the motion on the table. But I want to give option 2 a shot, and I think the way we might be able to do that, and I'm going to propose it and make a motion to amend the motion on the table by striking option 3 and replacing the wording with option 2.
Can I hold and let Jessica just have kind of her closing thought first, and then pick that up? Is that possible to do that?
It is possible, but I would like to.
You want to go ahead and offer? Okay.
I have a comment, and I'm particularly concerned with what the state is going to do. Despite the fact that if we in the Taconic and Green make a decision, we kind of force the state's hand, and it is my belief that each of the schools will have sufficient numbers, option 2 and 3 would have sufficient numbers to stay in business. Almost in business, if the state creates class sizes that offer equality of opportunity. And 2 and 3 seem to offer equality of opportunity. And I have heard from a large number of teachers at Floodbrook that if they are running a middle school, they want to be absolutely invested and part of the curricular changes that will occur in the valley, so that there will be little transition. The difficulty is that at approximately 180 students at Floodbrook now, they're a little bit below the critical 2 classes per grade necessarily as we go forward. But we're close. And if Floodbrook's curriculum, both its elementary curriculum, is working in tandem, as they need to be, with each other, then I think that the options are critical. The last piece, I too was impressed with some of the arguments above and beyond choosing option 2. The teachers who ought to know enough about facilities that are in existence seem to have some considerable concerns about opportunities to expand or modify in some ways the Dorset School, especially with respect to needing buses to get to athletic opportunities because of the small size, relative small size, of the Dorset gym. And so as I look at this thing, that's a concern, a real concern. Finally, and lastly, it seems to me you ask the question, if option 2 is the most stable at the beginning, we're looking for stability. And option 3 is placing students despite the nature of the building in the closest example of where we are with respect to where we want to go. It seems to me that that's important. And the more Floodbrook is invested in and offers the maximum amount of program opportunities, even if it costs the district more, equality of opportunity is important. I think I'm conflicted, but stability has been a hallmark of Randy's statement throughout the whole process. We move, we choose. Funding, that's going to be taken care of by 2028 by the state, if they stick to their current schedule. So I'm falling, unfortunately, in favor of option 2 for stability and for the fact that I want the very best program for everybody, and smaller elementary schools have always been, even if there are 3 of them, better than one large.
Does that mean you would like to take the?
I eventually would be happy to amend,
Okay.
but you, Jim.
Jim has not spoken yet, so Justin, we have Jim speak just before. Go ahead.
Thank you. You know, coming into this meeting, I was you know, solidly into the option 3 camp. We had some earlier discussions and all. I think the input, as you know, as many have said, the input from people working in our buildings is, you know, is extremely important, and I put a lot of weight on that. But at the same time, I kind of, one of the ways in looking at this is what got us started in this whole thing 3 years ago was we recognized that, you know, our greatest weakness in teaching our kids was our middle school. And, you know, we thought we were doing elementary okay, could always get better, but middle school we were really kind of, you know, failing in. And that's when taking a look at it again, I think from the standpoint of option 2 versus 3, I think option 2 really does put us in a position of getting, you know, what I liked about option 3 was I thought it got us closer to our ultimate goal of how we want to be configured. But option 2 actually does a better job quicker of getting our middle school started to configure towards the way we want it to go. I think, you know, we don't know about bond votes and all. Hopefully that'll work out and we'll be able to do the full plan. But if it isn't, I think we have the ability probably to adjust with our elementary grades a little bit better than we do with our middle school grades. And so now, you know, I've flip-flopped into option 2 just on the base, you know, with the, one of the, you know, it's the teachers are go for it. And I think we have to focus on fixing middle school because that is our biggest weakness. And I think, you know, option 2 puts us in a better position, whatever happens, to move that a lot quicker.
Thank you, Jim. Jessica?
Same thing. I came leaning toward 3, and I'm hearing from the teachers. I'm really glad that they took the time to have that meeting and talk through it. That's really like buoying because that's who's going to have to come along if this is what we're doing. And I definitely have heard pretty round support for both, you know, both options 2 and 3, at least in my town of Peru and in the mountain towns. And I just hope that if we go forward with this, that there's going to be collaboration, you know, between our middle school teachers on the mountain and the ones in the valley so that we can all kind of move toward that future together.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. What would happen if a Floodbrook resident decided, if we went with option 2 or 3, and a Floodbrook resident for middle school decided they wanted to go to the Manchester or the Dorset building and join the middle school with the other students? Could they or no?
So that's one of the decisions that the board has to make, and that's, Kelsey, you were the one who was talking about that
That's my
earlier.
concern.
So,
Yeah.
so ultimately.
Not that I'm
right-
concerned that they want to, but I'm concerned about that.
About how, right, and I think that is one of the biggest questions, is that right now we have inter-district choice, so within Taconic and Green, students can move to different schools if there's space available in that school. And so so the question is if we maintain that for middle school so that, well, it would be, for all intents and purposes, maintaining it, period, right? Maintaining it. So that kids from the valley could go up to Floodbrook if they wanted, kids from Floodbrook could come down. The concern is if we allow that, then what would happen to the Floodbrook program? Because their numbers are pretty small right now already. And so as we proceed through this process, are they going to lose kids and then we're faced with essentially having to make reductions and their program is struggling because of that. The way to protect their program is to not offer inter-district choice, but then we take the choice away from families. And so that is something that will have to be decided. And I think after the board votes on this, you know, at some point in the near future, that is going to be something you're going to have to decide.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
I just,
Yeah.
Well, have we, I mean, it may be crazy, but I have heard in a couple of the conversations, like, there may be people in the valley who want to send their kids up to Floodbrook for green space and other things. So I think it's like a question of opening up some kind of study and finding out what the district wants, or, you know, to inform that kind of decision.
Thank you. Yeah, we can also, I mean, I was just looking today at enrollment over the last few years of, you know, who goes up and comes down. So there's definitely mobility. There's, right now, for the last few years, more students who come down than go up, but I can share that.
Rogan, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I know this won't be any friends up here, but if Sunderland and Danby vote down closing their schools, which I would anticipate is somewhat likely, why isn't Plan Zero being spoken about at all?
Is it not changing?
Yeah,
Anything?
status quo. I know it's the worst thing to be said up here, but I can't imagine myself voting to close Courier if everybody in town votes to keep it.
Well, I just want to say, sorry to jump in on
No,
things.
that's fine, that's fine. I just
Courier
wanted to bring it
and
up.
Sunderland are already, like, this year, with the talk of closing, both schools, from what I've understood from other parents, are struggling. You know, they've seen teachers leave for more stability. They've seen kids, like, continue to leave the system. And so the students that are here, from my understanding, are already struggling, like this year. They've had to combine classrooms, more so in the past. So I might be wrong, but that's from my understanding of talking to other parents in both towns.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I was referring to earlier, Rogan, that we don't have enough students for 5 schools. And so what's happening is, as enrollment's declining and we're trying to keep a fiscally responsible budget, we're pulling resources. And the impact on that is something that, as a superintendent, I can't support and I can't advocate when students need special ed services and there's only a handful of people, and we've got part-time people that kids don't have access, and a nurse, guidance, like they're just not having access to the resources that others do. And so I rest assured, and I completely understand, you know, that it's a very challenging situation if the community's safe, keep the schools open, and we do, and the board has to make a decision, and you know, then we're building a budget under the conditions we're about to face, and we're still operating 5 schools with not enough kids, and we're continuing to cut. To me, it's just not, I would not be fulfilling my responsibility as a superintendent if I said, yeah, go ahead, let's keep doing that.
Well,
from an education or a financial.
It's a very specific timeline that ends 30/31.
What does?
The 5 schools at status quo would end in 5 years with the regional middle school.
We wouldn't have the regional middle school.
Right,
Yeah,
we wouldn't have a regional.
I mean,
I'm suggesting status quo until the point of the school existing.
As a transition plan.
Correct.
yeah.
I thought 0 was always an option. It obviously didn't get a page, but
We're gonna think I'll add.
just thought.
I'm confident that probably folks in the audience don't have children who are facing some of the challenges that our kids are. And that's, again, ultimately we will make all these decisions. I owe it to our kids and families to be moving forward with this conversation.
Rogan, I want to draw attention to the fact that over the last year or so, we've been we've been voting on small steps, incremental steps, and I think we're doing that with fidelity so that we can build a plan. We know that if status quo happens, that's it, the status quo, right? If we're not closing any schools, we're not changing anything. What we're trying to do, and I think as a board we agreed to, probably a few months before you came on, is that we would try and follow through this process and build the best we can so that when we do go for a bond vote and we do close, we have the answers that folks need so they feel comfortable voting for that. So that's what we're trying to do now, I think. recognizing that all that can change.
Sure. It seems like we're in a bit of a blender with 3 and 2, and we're not talking about potentially just focusing on the regional middle school and getting to that goal without closing schools either.
Right.
So I thought it was worth a mention.
I think Ben and John, and then after that, let's talk about the motion that's on the table for friendly amendment, I think, and bring this to a close. Ben, do you want to go ahead and speak?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want to belabor it. I think we should have a sidebar conversation around option 0, because we have had a number of board conversations about it. But I just keep coming back to, you look at packet page 25 and the enrollment numbers, and we have, as a district, what's that?
The ones from June.
Yeah, I mean, and we're and 6 and 5, and we just, we're a public institute, we're a public school district, and the state is laying out numbers of minimum class sizes, average class sizes of 14 and 16 and 18. And it's like we're not even in the ballpark. And so if we can plan and make moves to take care of our children now, before it's happening within a larger district. This is the, there are state things that are happening, and we don't know the exact timeline. We don't know what the districts are exactly going to look like. But it's not that the writing's on the wall. I mean, it's like broadcasting. Small schools are going to be closed. And so we have the opportunity to meet with communities and work with communities and make a plan within our district that's as respectful and careful as we can. And that's where I've gotten to, and I don't expect that everybody has, but that's my thought process is, how do we do this in the best way we can while we still have some control over it? And I know I'm not perfect, and maybe there's better people to make decisions, but I have been on the board for a while, and I've been on the middle school committee and thought a ton about this. And anyway, it's hard, and none of these decisions are easy. And there are, in many ways, they're separate. The conversation around closing these 2 schools is, is a separate thing from the middle school. It's because it's just the reality of those numbers.
John,
Yeah,
something new.
aside from the enrollment numbers, like on packet page 24, that, colorful graph, even though I made it, I'm partial to it. That really speaks to me real good as far as, since 2014, we've had 17% drop in enrollment. And across all our schools, we add up all the grade levels we operate. MEMS pre-K through 8, that's 10 grade levels. Right? All those grade levels, we operate 42 grade levels across all our schools. And our population our population's dropping, but the grade levels we're operating has not changed. And so then I'm just thinking with the status quo, just right now, the number of missed opportunities, the opportunity cost of pursuing that, aside from what the state's doing, like what are the missed opportunities, right? Of not consolidating, and we have fewer kids, fewer financial resources, greater expectations. Every year, the legislature is adding on higher expectations of what's happening in the classroom, and we're doing more, we're expected to do more or less every year across these grade levels. And then seeing what these other options, how we can operate fewer grade levels across our schools, and just as a teacher myself at Burn, and seeing what the magic that can happen when you have teachers who teach the same content area, teach the same kids, and they work side by side every day, and they collaborate. I'm not saying it doesn't happen at our schools, but I think there's a missed opportunity when you have teachers, English teachers, spread out across the district. You have teachers who are not side by side, and maybe they can get collaborate, but they have to do it remotely essentially from different schools. All goes to say, I think there's just like a lot of missed opportunities for operating fewer grades across the system.
Lindsay, go ahead.
I just have a question, Randy. You met with the teachers. Were these teachers from every school or just one school?
So I didn't, they met
Okay.
to review the transition plans together. It was 21 teachers from MEMS, and they had spoken to the Dorset teachers.
So it's
And
not just, it's a small portion, more like middle school teachers than the elementary school teachers
Correct.
who.
It was
So
all
there's-
middle.
So there's no opinions from our elementary school teachers.
Yeah, they didn't, I
Where-
didn't see any in any of the things that I looked at.
Option 2 would disrupt the elementary school kids the most. And we don't have elementary school opinions.
I don't think option 2 doesn't disrupt elementary programming.
Right.
Yeah.
In the long run. Right.
In the long run. So I think maybe that, I know everyone keeps saying that they're happy that they got the teachers' opinions, but I really feel if we're gonna go off teachers' opinions, we probably should have had.
Everyone had the opportunity to provide input. And that's what this particular group did. And anybody who asked to meet with me, I met with. I think that also just thinking about the disruption, the group that transitions next year, it'll be 5 years before the next transition, so it's not the same group of kids. There'll be a small group of kids who are impacted potentially twice, but we just, remembering the kids are moving through the system. It's not the same kids, right? Because we got 4 or 5 years leaving, 4 or 5 years coming in.
It is true, because
So,
yeah.
it's just a different group of
They'd be
kids.
shuffling a little bit more in the beginning, which could be a struggle, and we'd have to make sure we have the support system if we chose that.
Correct.
Because I was thinking about that, because like, in my experience, but like my kindergartner now would shift to MEMS and then stay there, and then my 4th grader now would also shift to MEMS, but then also shift back to Dora. You know what I mean? It's just like a little bit more chaotic.
Kelsey, I'm going to move on. Madison isn't spoken yet, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I really hate to backtrack, but going back to what Ben said, I had my hand up a little while ago, but kind of moved
I
on.
missed it,
But
sorry.
Yeah, back to what Ben said about like enrollment and stuff. I just peeked over at the paper, and it says like 62 kids go here. When I went here, it was around like 97. So that would have been around 5 or 6 years ago when I went to the school. So to drop that much, and you're talking about how like if we don't do anything, something will happen in 5 years. So if you were to think about when I went here, how many kids have left, like 30 to 40 kids have left this school. And like, I loved my small school, but entering high school, I've noticed so many kids who went here with me don't involve themselves in things that they totally could put themselves out there for. And I think that it just like, and like kids who went to bigger schools are more involved in high school is what I've noticed just from like being a kid. So like what John said about opportunity and missed opportunity, I think like staying small, yes, you have your people, but in high school now, not a single kid in my class still talks to each other. And it's like, there's so much missed opportunity for those kids who could be putting themselves out there in high school now, but they didn't put themselves out there in elementary school, and then in middle school they didn't. Because like living here, like you have to bring yourself somewhere else to be involved in something, and like just sometimes there's not availability for parents to bring their kids all the way to Manchester. So it's easier if you're already going to school there. That's just like what I've noticed.
Thank you, Madison.
Yeah.
I do want to close this discussion up so we can move on. Does anybody have any final thoughts that has not been said?
I would just add that just because we do look at enrollment on a monthly basis, and just for the board's information, we are 52 students in Taconic and Green under what we projected when we built the budget for this year.
Okay.
So, again, I mean,
Continuing to decline in enrollment is, yeah.
Well, can I just ask Randy a follow-up? Is that 52 that we thought were going to stay in the system and didn't, or 52 that we thought were going to be new coming in?
it's just the enrollment prediction. So it doesn't talk about it's looking at who's coming and who's going. We have fewer kids coming into the system.
Okay.
Do we know how many left the system?
Excuse me?
Do we know how many left the system?
No, we're going to tackle that. We just got it because school just started. So, but when I met with Celeste this morning, we're going to be looking at all of that information.
Okay, let's bring it back to the motion on the table to amend the motion on the table. And Dick, are you?
I would be happy to amend the motion from 3 to 2, if the seconder would also agree.
That would be you. That's fine. Okay. So the motion on the table now is to approve the school reconfiguration transition proposal for fall 2026, and I will read it just for clarity.
It's on page 10.
It's on packet page 16. Option 2 is Manchester building, grades pre-K through 5 for the town of Manchester, grades 6 through 8 for Danby, Dorset, Manchester, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland residents. The building in Dorset would be for grades K through 5 for residents of Danby, Dorset, Mount Tabor, and Sunderland. And the Floodbrook School building would maintain grades K through 8 for Landgrove, Londonderry, Peru, and Weston residents. Any questions about that? All in favor of approving option 2 as the approved school reconfiguration for 2026, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nobody's online right now, right?
No.
So Lindsay opposed? Yep. Any abstentions? No. Okay. So that motion will pass. We will be now working towards moving option 2, Danny. Thank you guys for that discussion. I know this was hard. This is not easy, but I really appreciate the amount of feedback we just got there. Let's see, action item 2. D, I'm sorry, thank you. D, approve 2 dates for community forums. What you'll see in your packet is the proposed dates of 10/14, 10/20, 10/21. The idea would be to approve a date. Is this changed from your email today?
That's something separate.
Separate, okay.
So that's the informational session, which I didn't realize we had to do as well.
So the approved dates for the community forums, 10/14, 10/20, 10/21. There are 3 dates, and we're looking to make sure that we have 1 date chosen for Sunderland and 1 date chosen for Danby and Mount Tabor. These are community forums. They are warned community forums. It is not a requirement, as it never is for board members to go, but we think since this is adding to the calendar, it's important that as many board members can go as possible. So we're putting this on so that we can kind of check our calendars together and see what works best. And Randy, did you check with the schools to make sure there's no conflicts with after-school events or any?
Carolyn, do you know if you have any conflicts on the 14th, the 20th, or the 21st of October here?
Great.
No, you don't know, or no, you don't have any? I did not. Jen, I think Jen Turner, if you're on, can you tell me if you have any conflicts?
Jen, do you see Jen on there, Jess?
I see Jen, she needs to come off mute and answer.
I'm texting her too, I apologize for that.
We don't want to come up against a parent open house or something.
Yeah.
Does anybody on the board have any preferences? I guess I would say check your
I
calendar.
can attend all 3.
I would suggest the 14th and the 20th, just because they're not back to back, and also the 20th is before the 21st, and we want to give people as much time.
I have a conflict on the 21st, but I could potentially get over that. She's in the 20th. I know. I'm just providing input.
Anything from Jen?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm also good on the 14th and the 20th.
Okay.
I
cannot be there the 14th, but I can be there.
Okay.
Cannot be on the 14th.
We have 2 out for the 14th. You cannot, you said, Ron? John, Jeff, all these dates are fine?
I think so.
I don't know.
Not full confidence.
You don't know?
I can answer that.
Okay.
I could definitely be there on the 20th. You and I already talked. I'd have to confirm coverage on the 14th.
Would you like to put a motion on the table then for the 14th and the 20th and be specific which schools or which places? I mean, at which dates?
I don't know if I'm ready for this one yet. I could be the seconder.
Okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, great. If Ron cannot attend on the 14th, since he is very much a player from Mount Tabor, it would be great if he could be there. Therefore, I would suggest for the 20th, the Mount Tabor and Danby.
Okay.
And that makes the 14th Sunderland.
Okay.
So that would be what I would propose. And the time, 6:30? What?
6:30.
Yeah. 6:30.
Okay. For the record, do you want me to repeat that, or would you go through? I know you just said it, but can we just get it in a speaking
I
statement?
move that the Sunderland warrant meeting be on the 20th at 6:30, excuse me, the 14th at 6:30, and the warrant meeting for Mount Tabor and Danby be the 20th, again, at 6:30.
Anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Jim, I heard you. I was looking at my paper. Any further discussion on this? Great. All in favor of approving Sunderland the 14th at 6:30 and Mount Tabor the 20th at 6:30, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Passing unanimously. Thank you. Action item E, approve increase to board stipends to, we had actually.
There is a motion. John wrote it.
In the agenda, it says 15 for board members and 2,000 for board chair. Let's go ahead and put that on the table since it's written, and then we'll amend it to reflect. Does that portion?
Why do you make the motion?
All right, go ahead and make the motion. Sure, go ahead, if anybody wants to make the motion, as it gets read.
Since it's John's motion, John, do you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Want to read the whole thing? All
Well,
right.
since it's been handed out, can we give a copy to our secretary? And given, and everybody has it right in front. So rather than read, could you make a motion to approve the motion that's just been handed out?
I move that we approve the motion that's just been handed out,
Adjusting
adjusting the school board member stipend based on inflation indicators. Can I explain it for the public?
I'll second it.
Okay.
All right, Diggle sent again. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, just for the
Please.
public here, in
Thank you.
in the agenda, it said, it's increasing our stipend from 1,000 to 1,500, and for the board chair from 1,500 to 2,000. I thought that might, especially now with, talking about school closures, reconfiguration, that such an increase might be wise to have a rationale behind it. So the motion reflects that it's using, essentially since 2017, when this board existed, it's been $1,000, using Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, adjusted for inflation. $1,000 back then is $1,300 now. So increasing it to $1,300 now from $1,000, but moving forward using I won't get in the weeds too much, but the motion says using the consumer price index for the Northeast for the month of July. So every year it'll be updated with inflation. So it's a increase from 1,000 to 1,300 now, but it is also not a change in the real wage, the real dollars, while a change in the nominal dollars.
The motion has been given and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Yeah, Ben.
I'm in general agreement in favor of at least keeping us equivalent with inflation. Now, I don't know how many years I've been on the board, 6 or so years on the board. The amount of work that we do has increased dramatically. And so when I saw going up to 1,500 and then I saw John's rationale for the thing, I thought, well, certainly the keeping up with inflation makes sense, but I also would be in favor of going to 1,500 simply to reflect the increase in workload for the board. I'm not doing it for the money. I don't think anybody here is doing it for the money, but it is also, there's definitely been an increase in the amount of work. So.
Thank you, Ben.
Lindsay. Just going off of Ben's statement, I have looked back in 2024 between board meetings, engagement committee, BRSU, special meetings, and forums. I had 32 appearances as a board member. And then when I joined in 2018 and 19, it was 11. So we have more than doubled. Tripled. Okay, see, good thing I'm not a teacher. Tripled our appearances.
Yeah.
And I'm not married to my motion. I just wanted to give it a rationale, and it makes it like what you guys are saying makes a lot of sense. I think more. My kids are in 8th grade and 12th grade now, and like they don't babysit themselves. But I was on the board. I've been on the boards for a while, and like stipends matter because I got to hire babysitters when I come to meetings. So if the stipend can help younger people, younger parents, make it more possible for them to run for the board. If it's a couple $100 more, great. So I don't really care which one we do, but I think adjusting it for inflation moving forward makes sense.
Does anybody want to offer an amendment to the motion or any further discussion?
You can amend it. I don't know how. Propose it to be 1,500 instead of 1,300, and then 2,000. Wait, is that what it was? 2,000 for the chair.
John, would you accept that friendly amendment? And Dick?
Aye.
Okay. So now the motion is to increase the board stipend to 1,500 for board members and 2,000 for board chairs. If there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Alex is abstaining. Don, do you hear me? Okay. Okay. Action item F, approved draft behavior threat assessment teams policy.
I move as stated in the amendment. This is actually, I believe, created by a mandate from the state, but written by our team. No. Written by VSBA.
Well, it's the Agency of Education with the VSBA.
Agency of Education with the VSBA. So the legislation requires that we pass it.
Dick has a motion on the table. Is any second? If we don't have a second, we don't discuss. Ben, did you second that? Thank you.
Ben seconded it?
Yep. Any discussion?
What packet page? I'm sorry.
It's on packet page 34. I would just say that this was originally written and proposed, and it was, really, really bad. We contributed input as well as a whole lot of other people across the state. This is significant improvement. Just for your information, I believe you already know this, although we have a lot of new board members. We have been training threat assessment teams at every school for the last few years. So schools in the SU have threat assessment teams, and so this is not out of the scope of what we have been doing.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the draft behavior threat assessment team's policy, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. Go ahead, Dick.
I move to adopt policy D8, which is mandated and written by the state legislature, and therefore they never really allow us to change anything that we might object to. So it is the policy that the legislature passed.
So, Dick, do I have a second? To approve policy 8, selection of library materials. And that is for Alex. Okay, further discussion. Randy, would now be a good time to just nod to the question of sexually explicit works in our elementary schools, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, we really strive to have developmentally appropriate material in our libraries, and in our, across everything we use. So if anybody has concerns, they always bring it to us independent of this for curriculum in library. We've had a process in place for if parents have concerns around materials being used in our classrooms, that they can express them and share them, and we have folks who review and determine whether or not it meets or not. So the procedure is aligned with what we do. It's
right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. So
when parents have concerns, they definitely let us know.
Right. And there's a procedure in place
Correct.
for that to follow through. Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor of adopting policy D8, selection of library materials, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Action item 8. I'm sorry, this is not an action item. This is just for distribution. Monitoring of policies 4.0, 4.1, 4.5, and 4.6. I guess I don't need a motion. There's no action here.
No, it's just distribution.
It's okay.
I think.
Were there any questions, I guess?
Well, it's monitoring.
Where it's monitoring.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is monitoring.
Yeah, we do. I personally find Randy's interpretations to be consistent.
No, we haven't gotten mine yet.
Right.
We're on your policies.
Wait, I thought we were on H.
We're on 4.
We're on
Oh, 4.
Yeah.
Those are the policies that we as a board responded to, and we had almost unanimous participation in the response. I wasn't going to call anybody out. We said we had pretty close to everybody participate. I guess I would ask the board if there's anyone that would like to bring anything up specifically that they saw that we should address at this meeting. I'd be happy to entertain a conversation, but I think it was pretty straightforward and thoughtful responses. Yeah, Ben.
I just noted that in the response to 4.0, there was a board member who suggested some rewording of that policy that I didn't write that, but I thought the suggestion was reasonable.
Okay.
So for flagging for when the policy committee gets together next to pop it up and take a look at it.
Where's that? Let me see it.
It's the second bullet under number 2 on packet page 39.
Would everybody like to make a motion to assign that? Because we have to have an assignment for a policy committee to have a meeting, right? They don't meet regularly.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I don't know that this particular line where it's a meeting on itself, but just to flag it for the next time there is a reason
Add it
to
to
meet.
the list?
Yeah,
Okay.
unless somebody else feels
Are you
more
going to put
strong.
that in your mental space for when we have the next policy? Because I won't remember.
I have Celeste try to keep track of them, so if somebody else keeps track, we will also try to keep track.
Great, thank you, Randy, and thank you, Ben, for noting that. Item I is the distribution of the work plan. Is there any changes or concerns that we would like to address in the work plan? I'm not seeing any. So we can move on from that. And then distribution of policy 3.4 and 4.7 to be monitored at the next meeting. Means that you folks will get an email from Celeste with some questions. This is more for the new board members. Just a reminder, you'll get a survey of questions that'll include what the policies are, and we will reflect on how we're doing as a board. And then we take that feedback. It comes in anonymously, and then we'll look at it over at the next meeting. So we're moving on to executive limitations, policy 2.0. Monitoring of policy 1.0, ends policy. This is your report, Randy.
Correct.
Do we do not need to accept this, or do we actually?
Typically, you accept it.
That's what I thought, okay.
This is the annual report for policies, so assuming you've all read it, right? It covers all aspects of your ends policy, as well as so you can see the work that we've done on it within the system over the last year. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have or respond to any thoughts you have.
Jim?
One thought I have is that there's a lot of this in this report that I think we should be making sure we share very widely with the public. Because, it's the fundamental, performance of our kids and how we're dealing with it. I just love to get this, I think a newspaper article on it and stuff like that would be really useful because, it shows a very good story with respect to student performance and what we're doing to measure that and all. I think it's important for the communities to know that.
I agree.
I thank you for a very well-written and informative report.
I agree. I'll back that up also and just say, I think, not just the way the policy is written, but as Randy reflected on it, it's just kind of a good reminder as to why we're having these really difficult discussions month after month about moving forward. Because this is the why. Everything that is in there. I'd like a motion to accept the monitoring policy.
So moved.
As written by Randy. Dick?
I'll second that.
Dick and Jim is the second. Any further discussion on that?
I just want to say that, there are many, many people who work hard to move the ends policy work forward, and we have really, really strong people in our system at all levels working together to continue to help us grow and improve. And seeing coaches and teachers working together and interventionists doing teams and assessment, it's really, really impressive. And so I just want to say I appreciate the work of our folks. I appreciate the direction that you've given to us. And so thank you.
Makes me feel like we should be writing a thank you letter to Randy, but again, all the people that have, the team that is making this happen. I appreciate you bringing that up. It's everybody.
Yeah, it's really everybody.
We have a motion on the table to accept the report as presented by Randy. Any further discussion? Otherwise, we'll take a vote. All in favor of accepting the report, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Seems unanimous.
Thank you.
I'd like to sort of second your idea of communicating our appreciation to
Staff.
Maybe we can write another letter.
I'm sure that would be appreciated.
Okay.
No, I had my hand up before.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's
Miss.
okay. It's just I'm fully in support of accepting this, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. The one piece that I was thinking would be helpful for us as a board is to in this reflection is to hear the areas more specifically pulled out that you feel like are in need of most work or focus for future years. And I know each year we set, the schools set new goals and you set new goals, but within this review process, just highlight in each area, like this is, of these, within this section, this is the area that, deserves the most support, like additional focus in future years, or this is whatever it might be. It just helps to sort of track progress over time, sort of that attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
And recognize that you're doing it, because I think you are doing it. This has been my perception, but that would help.
Sure. And maybe even just look at it as goals. Maybe looking at it as goals as opposed to.
Sure, I think, and
right?
yes, and I think it's also valuable to note where our shortcomings are.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with not doing everything perfectly. It's to be expected.
Always a work in progress.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Distribution of the FY25 year-end report.
Yes, you can see it here. Sue is also online. So you can see where we landed.
If Sue is online, I'd be happy to, we can field any questions anyone has on this report.
Yes, she just took herself off mute, so she's ready.
Sorry.
Thank you, Sue.
Which item is it?
We are on item 7B.
7B.
Okay.
And where might that, what page is it on?
Page 64.
Page 64.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions for Sue? Sue, is there anything that you would like to highlight for us that we should be paying particular attention to?
No, I don't think so. I think this is what we've been seeing over the last few years, right? We had a little bit more of a surplus than we anticipated, and it's mainly due to staff changes during the year and secondary students that exit that, they're not sure how many kids we're actually going to end up with at the end of the year that we're paying tuition for. So those two things added together make up the bulk of that favorable variance. So it puts you in a good place starting out the year. You're starting out the year with a surplus of more than we anticipated, because we did anticipate using $1 million. We planned to use that $1 million anticipated surplus towards this year's budget to reduce ed spending. So it puts us in a good place to start the year.
I did have one question, Sue.
Yeah.
On the fund balance summary, the second page of it, I'm seeing the usual fund balance summary then, which includes building and grounds reserve, but then below building reserve with these specific items. Is that?
Yeah, that's the
That's just a breakout.
Reserve. That's the $189,000 that we spent last year. That's
Just a breakout.
Projects that we spent.
Okay, great, thank you. I didn't see that at first, sorry. Yep.
Sorry.
Anything else?
I would applaud Sue again for being a conservative but incredibly accurate prognosticator when she made suggestions. Conservation is always a good thing, and putting any surplus to use to reduce taxes for a following year is even better. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well
thank
done.
you. Legislative updates. Jim, do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Just real quick, wanted to point out that, the redistricting task force is doing its work. It seems a little bit rocky at this point. We have sent 2 different communications at this point to the redistricting task force. Those were shared with all of the RSU board in the recent board meeting. We did include it in this packet as well, but they're available there on I think everybody should have seen them, and they're available on our website. It's kind of interesting if you look at the redistricting task force. Now it has a website, and they have a little link that has all of the public input. And just to let everybody know, I think I probably talked about it before, the Rural School Community Alliance, which is a group that's pulled together a lot of different towns and school districts around the state, and they're you know, they have not been terribly, they're concerned about a couple of things, you know, closure of small rural schools. They also have a concern in common with us with respect to, you know, districts that have a different operating structure, like we do with K-8 versus 9-12. And, you know, there are 3 districts, you know, K-8 operating, K-6 operating, and non-operating. The concern is that as the redistricting task force tries to put together these maps, you know, initially they were going to do all supervisory districts, which don't play well with different structures of operating and all. So they've been they've been very vocal. If you look at the website of the redistricting task force, there are probably about, you know, 15 or 20 communications there. About 15 of them are the same boilerplate that's coming from the rural school district or the Rural School Community Alliance, basically saying we want supervisory unions. You'll see there are 3 communications there that I think are particularly good. Well, actually, there are 4 of them. One is from the VSBA, essentially saying this whole idea of 4,000, 8,000 size districts doesn't make sense, and it's not based upon research. You should consider smaller. The second one is Sue Wilborn's one of the signers on it, which came from business managers around, also pointing out that that supervisory unions are not a very efficient way of operating, and so, you know, suggesting that they try to consider ways to make different models work. The 2 from the BRSU, I think we're actually, I thought we communicated some good things, which are, we think SD is a better approach, and here are some ways that you could potentially make an SD structure work with, or, you know, you should consider opening your minds to making an SD structure work with a district like ours that has K-8, K-6, and non-operating.
School choice.
School choice. So, you know, if take a look at those. I think we're likely to communicate further as time goes by. We've been having meetings with PBA and Long Trail to try to ensure that we're all sort of on the same page. And this is one of those biggest issues is the school choice issue. And we're trying to get aligned and figure out, you know, maybe getting more specific with our proposals or suggestions to the task force. Not that they're going to listen to us at all, but honestly, you know, the task force, you know, the point we're trying to make is, you know, trying to go ahead and recast all the school districts in the state using the same old roles that we have with school districts and choice and SDs and SUs. It's harebrained. We have a really bizarre system that doesn't work very well. So if you're looking at doing a major change in how school districts are configured around the state, to not take a look at the fundamental roles that will absolutely get in the way of that ever being successful with what they want to accomplish. Act 73 is supposed to accomplish better education at a better cost, and if they just plop supervisory unions together, they're going to end up having Franken districts that do not operate very efficiently. So, you know, we're trying to push them in a different direction. You know, if anybody wants to get more involved in that, feel free to get in touch. We continue to have pretty much weekly meetings with, you know, we have representatives from TNG, Meadowy, and Winhall getting together, usually with the superintendent, trying to figure out what to do. We'll try to we'll always try to make sure we let you know what we're communicating. And, you know, ideas are always welcome. So we're trying to have an impact on the statewide process. It's an uphill battle, but I think we've been a little, I think our input has been more thoughtful than almost all the input that's happened today.
Any questions from folks?
One other thing. The VSBA regional meeting is coming up very soon. Our own Melanie Virgilio she's trying to recruit somebody to take her spot, but I'm not sure she's going to be lucky enough to do that. But she's up for re-election. This would be a VSBA regional meeting to go to because the co-chairs of the redistricting task force are going to be there giving a bit of a presentation and taking a Q&A. Yep. This is a great opportunity for us to ask them good questions and to get them thinking.
And it can happen Zoom and...
It's all Zoom.
It's all Zoom, right. And I know that you folks gave me a resounding yes, go ahead and run, but considering all that's happening at the state, I figured that the South should also consider throwing somebody into the ring so that Bennington region is also represented on the VSBA board.
So the SVSU.
So so somebody from the SVSU or, so I did kind of put that out. You might have read my email today, but just in case anyone wants to consider from Bennington running or anybody watching these meetings or Arlington.
It is, Melanie and I will both tell you that, it is, and David can tell you as well, because he spent a lot of time on the VSBA board. It is a very enlightening role to play.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Future agenda items from anyone? Yeah.
I have two, actually.
Great.
After a load, Randy just stepped out, but the first is a discussion on the future of pre-K programming. I spoke to Floodbrook parent about transition options, just getting their feedback. And they are also a board member on the little school. And they said that one of the requirements is for expanding pre-K, like Floodbrook, for example, is that the nearby private providers have to agree. And she said that little school would be on board with having pre-K at Floodbrook, and that allows them to maybe focus on younger kids. So the larger point is, how do we what's the future of pre-K programming going to look like? How can we bring pre-K to Floodbrook and create a great pre-K program up there?
Yeah, I think that's great. I believe that with the transition program tonight, Courier currently has pre-K, and Courier students, there's no pre-K offered right now as part of the transition proposal for Dorset.
Yeah. So how are we going to make?
Right.
What's the pre-K vision going to look like?
Thank you for bringing that up. What's your second one?
The second one is I've kind of been shy about this the past years about asking when we get data on growth, iReady scores, whatever it may be, we get historically marginalized groups, different grade levels. It's all great. I've asked to see based on gender, the gender achievement gap nationwide is huge. For boys are really struggling nationwide as far as achievement goes, as far as mental health goes, higher rates of suicide, higher rates of discipline. I feel like that's a data point. I'd like us to have this discussion about to what extent we look at gender, biological sex as part of how we think about kids' growth. I think it's an important matter, and one that's, you ask me, nationwide, we need to take more seriously how boys are underachieving. And I don't know if they're underachieving in our district, and I would like to know.
Just writing that down. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. We have 10 minutes set aside. I see a very dwindled public. Do you have anything you'd like to add to this before we close? Or anybody online? No. Sure.
I'm Charlotte Dobson, and I'm just going back to the school thing. But I have two daughters that went here. They went to And to me, I think it's not because of the small school. I think it's the child, you know, that is going on to these schools.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. I hear ding dong, and I just want to make sure.
Somebody just wants to join, but we're almost done, so.
Okay. We'll close up public comment. Board self-evaluation, you should have a self-evaluation form in your packet that I would appreciate if you filled out and handed me today. I have not reported out on any yet, so just anything else other than
I didn't get that.
that I recall that needs to come to our attention. If you feel like I missed something, hit me up and be like, yo, I wrote something and you didn't bring it up. I also have an electronic version if anybody would prefer that. Just let me know and I will send that out as well. Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will just send out a blank email, a Taconic and Green email with that electronic version. Our next meeting date is October 7th, 6:30 at MEMS. You've noticed we've been adjusting some of these dates to 6 o'clock instead of 6:30 when we anticipate something like this happening. Unfortunately, that normally happens only about a week before the meetings and the agenda comes out, because that's when we really find out what's going on. So we'll do the best we can to let you know ahead of time if that's going to change. And then, Dick, do you want to make a motion?
I make two motions so that they're back-to-back executive sessions that we don't have to come out of in order to engage in both. A motion to go in executive session for the evaluation of an employee per Title I, paragraph 313A3, after making a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage. And B, a motion to go into executive session for confidential attorney-client communications per Title I, paragraph 313A1F, after making a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage. And I also add that our superintendent be invited, and you said potentially a lawyer might come?
That's just me.
No, okay. Just Randy be invited, ladies. I'm sorry.
We're uninvited.
I'm sorry.
The second, Dick is making the motion. Who's going to second? Kelsey's going to second. We can handle those in one motion, or should we double?
It is one motion.
Okay.
We're not coming out of executive session.
Okay, great.
So-
Just to, yeah.
Until we do.
There's no anticipated action, is that correct?
Right.